Hi, my name is Bud Carlson with Turbos Aquatics, and today I'm going to go over all the parts and functionality of my latest version of the Algae Scrubber that I make, which is the Rev 3, third revision. I also refer to it as the Turbo HF, which stands for high flow because it has the capability to handle a lot of flow. So basically, let's get to it. I'm going to show you just all the parts, and then I'll go over each individual part and how they function together. The first is obviously the main acrylic box. That is the box where that houses the Algae Scrubber screen and allows everything to drain. This also comes with a false bottom, which slips inside the box. I'll show you how that works. It comes with a lid, which has acrylic on one side, so it looks nice, and it has PVC on the other side, which prevents it from warping. The slot pipe is a new version that's fully enclosed inside the box. Again, I'll go over how this works later. It has rotatable rings, so that the screen easily pops out, and it has end caps with O-rings in there to seal it up within the box. And one of the latest improvements I made was a ABS extruded light blocker, and it's also a spray blocker. But basically what happens is you can just snap this over the pipe after you secure the pipe in place, and it creates a small area where the light won't get directly to the screen and the junction of the slot pipe and the screen, which means that when you take the screen out, you'll have very little growth right at the top here that would cause any kind of blockage along the slot. Your slot's much cleaner, and it's a lot easier to maintain it. So for this is the L4, and so for this one you would actually get 3 sections of light blocker, one on either side of the rings. For the L2 and the L3, you would just get 2 light blockers that would fit because there's only one ring in the center on those units. You also get some threaded adapters with O-rings, and these are for the drains. Some PVC pipe sections to route the water to your sump. This is the main drain valve, and I'll go over how this works later. You get some PVC parts, various parts for the threaded drain or threaded slot pipe feature, which I will then go over as well. So there's an end cap, there's a coupler, and then there's an elbow to transition over to a hose bar. We get a 3/4 inch double threaded union, and that's from Glass Holes. Has a nice unobstructed path through the middle of it. You get a street elbow, and that's for the side drain. And then there's also a filter sock that comes with it, and that's just basically for bubble trapping purposes if you need that, but it also can serve as a trap for any algae that might detach from the screen and get out into the tank, although that's not its primary purpose, mainly for bubble blocking. For the input side, I provide you 2 feet of vinyl hose and a ball valve. That's a 2 little fishies ball valve, 3/4 inch, and some zip ties to secure this to the pump if you have one, and around here, and also to allow you to hang this from the ball valve. Also included is a cleaning kit, which includes a scraper, a gratin tile brush, and it's like a denture toothbrush. Pretty heavy duty toothbrush with a little barb on the back too. And of course, I'll send you a koozie and a monogram scraper and a couple of business cards. And let's not forget the light fixtures. Now the light fixtures that I have put together, I don't actually have a fully assembled L4 fixture, but these are the heat sinks from Maker's LED, and these go into the sides. Obviously, I'll show you that. And I do have an assembled L2 light fixture, so that I can show you how my custom LED boards work and how to adjust them, and I'll go over that later. Now I'm going to show you a little bit more detail on each of the pieces and parts and how they work together. So the main box has 4 threaded holes. There's the main drain, there's a secondary drain, which you could call it a side drain or an emergency drain, and then we have 2 threaded holes for the input for the slot pipe. You'll notice that there are some thumb screws in here right below where the slot pipe is, and that allows you to cradle the slot pipe while you tighten it down. There's also some thumb screws on the top here to hold the light fixtures in. Now the false bottom, what this does, it just slips inside, and as you can see, it creates a path for the water that goes to force it to the ends and then down and around, so that the water doesn't get in direct contact with the drain, that the algae rather doesn't get in direct contact with the drain and cause any kind of clogging. So that's the first fail-safe mechanism. Now for the slot pipe, I don't have the screen in this just to show you the simplicity of how this works. Okay, it just drops right in there, and then you take either your coupler, or if you don't want to use the union, you can use the union and into the elbow and have that come out like that. If you had a pump and you want to be able to disconnect the unit and take it away and clean it every week, you could do that. If you didn't have that need, you don't even need those. You just would screw this right in, and you screw it in just far enough. You'll be able to see this when you get it, but you get it far enough in there where it protrudes in, and then the threaded cap goes in the other end. And when you first put it in here, you just want it just barely poking in. And the purpose is to get the slot pipe in there nice and tight, so you get this side sticking out far enough where you never have to adjust it. And this side, you drop it in, hold on to the pipe, tighten that nut down, and there you go. Now move the false bottom around. That creates a watertight seal so that you don't have any water spraying out the sides. It might drip on the inside of the box, and if that's the case, what you usually then do is just tighten things down another notch. I just noticed that I had that tightened down a little bit too low. When you get the screen in here, what you would do when you clean it each time is that you just loosen that up enough you can take this out. Put the screen in, rotate the rings in, drop it in there, lock it in on one side, tighten the other side down. Just try to eyeball it to see it, make sure it's roughly vertical. Tighten it down, fire it up, turn your water on. And then after the water's going, you take your slot pipe light blockers, and you snap them in, and just get them even so that they're flat on the top. As you'll notice here, they have a flat section on the top, so you can tell from above where they are. Get it going, put the lid on, you're good to go. Alright, so that's how the slot pipe and the light blockers work together. And for removal of the slot pipe, you don't need to remove the light blockers. You take those off when you get to your cleaning step. So I'm going to take these adapters off and set them off to the side. For the drain setup, there's a couple things I want to point out to you here. What's pretty obvious here is that where the threaded drains screw in. Sometimes it takes a little bit to catch, and you don't ever have to remove these, so once you get it, you just leave it in place. There we go. Okay, tighten it down. And you can tighten it down pretty tight, because the acrylic is strong. It's not going to rip the threading out. But you really don't need it too tight. Just tighten up to get the seal going there. Alright, so that's how you would have it, have the drain set up. Obviously the side drain you put in the street elbow and a 1 1/4 inch pipe, and you would extend this down to just above your water level. So you'd want to cut this off so that just above your water level is where the pipe terminates, and that will give you some kind of indication audibly if you have a lot of water flowing out of the side pipe telling you something's wrong, that the water's not getting to the bottom drain, you need to clean the unit. And you don't have to solvent weld these in place. You can just friction fit them, or you can wrap them with tape, just 1 turn, 2 turns with tape, or some PTFE paste, and just push them together. For the bottom drain, what I provide you is a single union ball valve. Looks kind of bulky and expensive. It's actually not that expensive. A lot cheaper than a gate valve, and it doesn't have any metal parts, so it can be fully submerged. Now, one of the things about this is it has a nut on one side, and then you can take this off the other side. The reason you don't see these used a lot is that when you close it, the bulb comes out. So it's not really a shut-off valve. What I found it good for, though, is with a high flow rate, you can tune the drain such that you get almost all the flow through here and maybe just a little trickle of flow through here, and that will minimize the noise and the bubbles. But one of the nice things about this valve, as you can see, it's very adjustable, very easy to turn, so you can really fine-tune this valve. And then when you get it where you want it, you leave that nut on there. You get where you want it, you tighten that down a little bit, and then the valve tightens up. So you can really lock it in place. And if you wanted to adjust it again, you just back it off a little bit, make your adjustment, tighten it back down. So what you want to do with this is you want to terminate this just above or just below the water level in the sump. so that it creates a siphon on the drain. And then, so basically you have your pipe for drain of the unit, and you figure out where the water level is, and you cut the pipe such that the bottom of the valve would be, like if your water level was right here, you want the bottom of the valve to be there. So you'd only really need a small section of pipe here to push in there. Again, only needs to be friction fit. So there's no complicated assembly there. You just need to cut the pipe just with a regular saw of any kind, hand saw, coping saw, what's the word I'm looking for? Anyways, so that's how the drain system works. And the second part of this here is that I provide you the filter sock so that if you have a really high flow rate, lots of bubbles, which will happen at first, and then after the first couple weeks and you get some coating on the screen, you won't have as many bubbles. But if it continues, what you do is you take two of these zip ties and you link them together to make a loop. And actually you loop it through the filter sock like this. And for this you might need like a small section of pipe hanging beneath this to catch it, but you can just literally hang the filter sock underneath the valve and like I said, take a small piece of PVC pipe and drop it so that it's in the filter sock, or you can somehow find a way to prop this up. But what happens is the water will, this can even be below the water level surface, the water will drain out into the filter sock, and this traps the bubbles so they don't swirl around your sump and they just come right to the surface and they flow away. That's what I found works really well. And then of course for the input to the whole unit, you can have this on either side. You don't have to have the input on the same side as the drain, but usually where your pump is where that is, so you can put it on the other side too. But you just push this hose up and drop it down your pump. You can have it on this side because you can position this however you want and just attach the hose to it, drop down to your pump. And of course you have the zip ties to tie the hose onto the elbow. Last thing I want to cover, just to show you real quickly, is the light fixtures, the LEDs. And of course I said I don't have an L4 fixture assembled at this moment to show you how it works, but I do have just the heat sinks, so this is a really quick step to show you how these go on and off. Now these will have an end cap on them, and that looks like this, and those are screwed onto the ends, and there's also some rubber bumpers on here. But basically it just sits in there, you tighten down the thumb screw, and again, that will not come off. The reason for that is that there's a little plastic or a little acrylic tab down here, so the fixture is held snugly in place. And then obviously you take the other fixture, put it on the other side, and there you go. And of course, if you wanted to peek and see how the scrubber algae is doing, you just take the light fixture off, take a look at it, put the light fixture back on. You don't even need to turn them off to do that. You can leave them running, leave the LEDs on during that. So that really is the main overview of how the L3 or the Rev 3 series, the Turbo HF scrubbers work. Now I'm going to grab a light fixture and show you how these work. What I'm going to show you next is the LED light fixtures and some of the features of those, how you modify the intensity of the LEDs and things like that. So this is the L2 fixture, so it's just got one of the boards. Now this is my custom LED board, so it's got it has six 660 nanometer deep red Philips Luxion ES LEDs and two 445 nanometer royal blue LEDs. Now I've taken the end cap off. The end caps are held on with screws. It all comes assembled for you, ready to go. And then of course the other thing that it has are waterproof. These are what they call weather pack connections. They're automotive type of connections, and so when your LED, when you take your driver, and this driver's leads have been cut down a little bit, so this is not what you get. You get the longer leads. You have basically gasketed connections so that you don't have to worry about water getting into these. You don't want to submerge them, but they will not have any problem with water getting into them. And then for the US and Canada customers, you also get a plug terminated on the end. For anybody international that would come without the plug on the end, you'd have to put your own on. The driver is a universal voltage driver, so it can accept, on the label it says here 100 to 240 volt AC. It'll actually take DC, from what I understand, it'll actually go down to 88 volts and all the way up to something like 277. But you can look at the spec sheet on that. It's a Meanwhile LPC 35700. Just Google that, you'll pull up anything you need. It is universal to work in any power system. Just a note here that the blue wire is a neutral and the brown wire is the lead, or the hot wire. Most people think that doesn't matter, but it actually does. It'll function if you have these reversed, but in the US there's a wider tab and a narrower tab on the plugs, or prong rather, and the blue goes to the wider prong. That's all you need to know. So I'm going to fire this up and show you the LEDs running. So it's on right now. You can't see it when it's in the scrubber unit itself. You won't be able to see very much light coming out either, but you're gonna right now. All right, now that's the LEDs on the base default setting, which is a low intensity setting. All right, so you can see that you got the two rows of reds here and the blues in the middle, and the blues do look brighter, and they're actually, everything here is running at half power. The blue looks brighter because blues just have more intensity than the reds do. Reds are more of a on the end of our spectrum of being able to view. So I'm going to unplug this. So the reds have a lot of intensity as far as the algae is concerned, and they're very focused on the wavelength that the algae needs, which is why I use them. Now, like I said before, I've taken the end cap off. There's a splash shield in here, so you can take that off. And I'm going to show you a little closer. If you can see here, first there's a terminal block, and that's where the LED, or that's where the wiring comes in. It goes through. I have a rubber O-ring, or gasket rather, to basically, I have a hole drilled in there. The wires pass through, so it protects the wires. It also keeps them pretty tightened in place, so that if you actually yank on these wires, you're not going to affect the wires on the inside. Okay, it's a grommet. That's the word I was looking for. Now, these 8 LEDs are in pairs. There's a jumper in between these two over here, and there's 3 sets of jumpers between these two, and these two. It's set in a default configuration, which is a parallel configuration, which means that as the power comes in, it actually goes into the jumper bank and it splits between the 2 LEDs. So these LEDs run in parallel, and then it comes out, goes to the next set, to the next set, to the next set, and back. It actually runs the other way, but that's just a fine point. Essentially, you can take these jumpers right here and you can switch them. And you pull the jumpers off and you put one jumper in the middle, and now what happens is the power comes in and runs through each one of these in series fashion, and you've just doubled the intensity on this pair of LEDs. Now the blue LEDs, you never want to change that. You want that to stay on parallel, because the LEDs have more intensity, and if you put too much blue in there right across the middle of the screen, it'll actually inhibit growth right in the middle. So you can change just one set of jumpers. So on the L2 you'd have 1, 2, 3 different intensity settings on each fixture. You have one fixture on each side, so you actually have 6 different intensity settings that you can put on the scrubber overall. On the L4, basically it's the same as this, longer heatsink, has 2 boards per side, so you actually have 6 intensity settings on each fixture. So you can actually have 12 different combinations of intensity, or 12 levels of intensity, and you could have many permutations or combinations of where the intensity is focused at. So I'm going to plug this back in, and I don't know if you'll be able to even really see the difference between this pair here that's running in series and these 2 pairs running in parallel. We're going to find out how it shows up on the camera. You can tell a little bit that these 2 LEDs have a, and I'll have to look at the video when it gets done, but that these 2 LEDs right here have a little bit more intensity to them. It just have the corona around here, I guess it looks larger. You do not want to switch these jumpers while the fixture is connected to power. what that'll end up doing is when you put the jumper back on, you'll blow the whole board. All the LEDs, all the red LEDs will go. I am working on trying to figure out why that happens. All I know is that it does happen, and don't change the LEDs while the fixture's running. What you want to do is power the LEDs down and let it sit for a few seconds. My recommendation is, about 10 to 15 seconds, 30 seconds if you want to be safe. And it's been about 10, so I'm going to go ahead and switch them. We'll see what happens here. Okay, that lets any residual power bleed out of the driver. So I'm going to switch that here, and then we're going to plug them back in. And now these two LEDs over here are on the low intensity setting, and these two and those two are on the high intensity setting. So, as you can see, it does put out quite a bit of light. If you're right next to the thing where your screen is, that's a lot of intensity. So the key here is that you don't need to run the high intensity setting unless you have a lot of growth and you've extended your photo period out to, say, 20 hours or 22 hours, and you still don't have enough filtration. When you double the intensity, when you jump these up to the high intensity setting, or the high intensity setting from the default setting, which is the low intensity, you will need to reduce your photo period a little bit, most likely, or else you can inhibit the algae. It's not used to that level of light, or you might have to. And the other thing you need to do is make sure that you have enough nutrients delivered to the screen to accept that level of light. So you want to increase your flow, or if you already have a high nutrient system, you might be okay just doubling the lights. So that's how the LEDs work. One other note is that when you get, I'm going to grab another L2 fixture here. For the L3 and the L4, those come with one driver per fixture. So when you'll have one heat sink with two boards on it. One driver goes to that board, one driver goes to that fixture, one driver goes to the other fixture. For the L2, you will get two fixtures and one driver, and all you need to do is plug the driver into one lead from one fixture, one lead from the other fixture, and then daisy chain the other two together, and there you go. Now this can run both of these fixtures on the high intensity setting for all the LEDs except for the blues. You want to leave those in parallel. You want to leave those at the low intensity, never change those. So, and like I said, it doesn't matter which fixture you connect the driver to first, because this is really kind of idiot proof. You can't connect these wrong. I just switched the red from this fixture to this fixture and switch them around. Doesn't matter. They're still in parallel. They still work. So there's no way to connect it wrong. And that is the overview of the LED fixtures.